Everyone give it up for our worship team one time this morning. Lori was about to preach. Good stuff, good stuff. Hey, I just want to say thank you guys. If you don't know, my name is Aaron, and I get to be the location pastor here at the Mountain Home location of Real Life Church. And it's truly, truly an honor to be here. So we're going to start a new series today called Picking Up the Check. And some of you see the graphic and you hear the term and you're automatically like, oh boy, here we go. Dismiss that. I'm going to talk about picking up the check, but I'm going to unpack something a little bit different than what your mind's probably thinking today. But in that, being the location pastor here is a great honor. And one of the things I love is just our team. The staff here, the team that we get to be around, our lead pastor, Pastor Vince, he is an incredible, incredible leader and human being. So he gets the privilege today to be with some church planners in Detroit as he's working with them, encouraging them. And we talked a little bit yesterday, and this is a thank you from us as a team, from myself, from him. But because of your generosity, because of your trust in him, because of where you've placed and just been able to let him lead, his ministry gets to continue and be prolonged and continue even further into his years because he trusts people like me and Patrick and Cody and all kinds of other people around to do what God has called them to do. So thank you for that, Real Life Church. I'm grateful to be here. I know everybody else on our team is grateful to be here as well. But I also want you to do this. I want you to celebrate each other real quick in a moment, because one of our values here at Real Life is that we are generous. We are a generous church, which means we get to reach other people in areas that you don't even know that you get to impact, between church plants, missions, different organizations in town. And it's all because of your generosity, yes, in finances, but also in time and treasures and talents and all these different things that we get to be generous because of your heart and the value and the God protecting that and favoring us as us. So give yourself a hand clap and a shout for just a moment because of the lives that you get to impact. We get to celebrate with the baptism here at the end of our 11:30 service, and you get to have a moment in that. So thank you for that. We celebrated with baptisms last weekend in Gainesville, and because of a moment like that, a life is changed and impacted and put on display because of your faithfulness, because of your trust in us as a team. So thank you for that. Thank you for coming alongside us. I'm excited to be able to preach this today. It's been a minute since I preached on a Sunday morning. I was supposed to a few weeks ago, and then we had a baby. So Miss Blake Madeline. So texted Patrick and was like, hey, baby's on the way. You're up. Good luck. And he killed it. So it was great. It's just great to be able to have a team like that that's ready to go and is available whenever the call is made. So today I want to unpack this thought today. I'm just going to unpack this, and I'm going to title the message to start the series, Picking Up the Check. So if you got your phone and you take notes on it, or if you got a notebook, whatever works for you, title this message, Picking Up the Check. And I encourage you to take notes, because leaders take notes, and you retain 85% of everything you write down. That is a stat that was made up because 80% of stats are made up on the spot. So back to back, 2 made up stats. You're welcome. But we're going to walk through this today and what it means to be generous. Someone this past week, my wife and I, we went out to eat one day this week. And she just texted and said, hey, when's your lunch plans? What's going to happen? What works for you? And I said, I'll be ready in about an hour. And she says, okay, cool. You want to meet up? We'll go out to eat. And I said, perfect. She said, I want to get Blake out a little bit. It's nice out. And we'll swing by and hang out for a minute. I said, okay, sounds cool. So we went out to eat. And we walked in, we got sat down and ordered our food, got everything ready, hung out, just talked. And then there was that moment where the waitress gets a little bit awkward. And you're like, what? Like, we're ready to go. We're on lunch break, lunch hour. We got places to be. We got things to do. Where are you at? And then she comes back and she says, hey, just so you know, your tab's been taken care of. And those are pretty cool moments. I don't know if it's ever happened to you, but if you're in this experience, and it was you, thank you, first off. But sometimes that happens, and most of the time we're not expecting that. And it's a great blessing, and it's really cool to be able to see those moments, whether it's you or to those around. It's one of the most popular things that takes place when it comes to the thought of generosity right now is pay it forward. Anybody ever been one of the receivers of a pay it forward moment? So what did you do after you received the pay it forward moment? You paid it forward. And it became a chain reaction that began to take place because someone blessed you, so in turn, you want to bless someone else. But today, I want to do this. I want to rethink the thought, the premise, the idea of generosity, of being generous. So I'm not going to necessarily give you any points today as much as I'm going to give you some questions to think about throughout the morning and the rest of the day. So in the first question I want to pose for you is, are you a generous person? Are you a generous person? And automatically your mind probably says yes. I'm a generous person because I'm going to begin to defend things that I do in order to be generous. Okay, so in that, what is your definition of generous? What does it take to be generous? Is it the billionaire philanthropist that's continually throwing out money to all kinds of different organizations? Automatically, most of us probably thought Bill Gates or Warren Buffett, who are giving 40% of their net worth away every year. Like, that's amazing. I would love to do that. Some of you are like, that's not really generous. They're just getting a tax write-off. It's a business deal more than it is being generous. So actually, generosity to me is the person that's working at the homeless shelter or at the soup kitchen and spending hours and hours investing into people. Or how do you even think about generosity and what qualifies them to be generous? When it comes to this thought of generosity, do generous people look at the world differently? Or does the world look at generous people differently? Do generous people look at the world differently, or does the world look at generous people differently? I think both are good questions to begin to ask. So this morning, you're already thinking that by the sign, the screen in front of me and all these things, I'm just going to hit you with money, but I'm not. I'm going to talk about picking up the check and what generosity really means and where it stems from and what it looks like. So in this idea of generosity, one of the things we do in Life Connect, if you've had the opportunity to go through that, is we take a spiritual gifts assessment. Life Connect is a 4-week discipleship model that we go through for partnership here at Life Church to jump on board to be a part of the family. So the 4th week is connecting to freedom, so who God created you to be and the freedom he created you to live in. But in the 2nd week, we go through a spiritual gifts assessment. And when I walked out of high school, starting an internship, starting college, I did a spiritual gifts assessment as well, the same one that we take. And I remember the moment that I took it, and I was going to get my results, and I immediately thought, it's going to say, high on everything, because I'm an incredible human being. Just being honest, this is what I thought. That's not what happened. It came back, and I was high in some different areas, but one of my lowest, it actually may have been the lowest, was giving. Giving was my lowest spiritual gift. And immediately I began to think, well, this test is wrong. Like, it doesn't know me at all. It's just a bunch of ridiculous answers. But then I began to think about it and process it, and the Holy Spirit began to speak to me and say, Aaron, what is your heart behind your giving? And again, I began to defend the moment. So God, I'm just a college student, and I just get a certain amount of money every month from my dad's retirement when he passed away. And that's what I have to live on as a college athlete. And I tithe on it. And everybody else around me makes fun of me because they're like, that's your money. But no, God, I'm faithful and I trust, so I'm going to tithe on it. God, I spend every moment I can going to one of the locations close to one of our church locations close to our school so that I can continue to serve the local church that I am in. Or I'm going back every weekend to serve as much as I can on a Sunday morning. I go to the Boys and Girls Club on days that we don't have practice so I can serve that. God, all I am doing is giving. Everywhere around me, I'm giving. So what's your heart behind it, Aaron? Why are you giving all these things? Why are you giving of your time? Why are you giving of your finances in order to make a difference around you rather than just uplifting yourself and feeling good about your giving? Which was a really hard thing for me to swallow because, I am in this dichotomy, weird balance in this moment because, yes, I now just got the answer that giving is one of my worst spiritual gifts and I need to work on that. But I also have a love language that's called gifts. One of my favorite things to do is to give gifts, and I also love to receive gifts. I love that reaction. I love the moment. I'm a words of affirmation and a gifts person, so I love for you to give me something and tell me how great I am at the same time. I'm just being real with you, okay? Like, you can laugh or whatever. I'm just being honest. Those are my love languages. Tell me how great I am and give me something. Tell me my shoes look good and give me a new pair. But in this moment, I'm thinking, I love to give gifts. I love to give someone something that they weren't expecting. I loved for them to brighten up when they see that there was a thought that was had, and now they receive this gift that they opened up. My dad was a giver. And he was a funny one too, because he thought if in order for you to get your gift that I'm giving you that you should just enjoy, I'm going to enjoy it a little bit too. So one year he gave me a 22, and it was the same 22 that's been passed through our family and different stuff. But he thought it would be great to break it down, put it in this wood box, and put over 300 screws around the edge of the box for me to open it. So my gift for Christmas that year was a screwdriver to go through and undo all of the screws while everybody else is opening presents to figure out what the gift was I was getting to. So this thought of generosity and giving, it weighs on me a lot because I love to give. You see a guest come in that lead worship or to preach, I'm the one that Pastor Vince says, hey, go get them a gift basket, put some good stuff in there and take care of them. That's me. I just love to do it. I love to surprise my wife with little gifts. The worst thing you can do is tell me, hey, we're not getting each other Christmas presents. Game on. Because I'm about to blow your mind. But this thought of generosity. Are you a generous person? Are you a generous person by nature? Is it just who you are? Automatically, your brain is spinning and you're thinking, yeah, I am. Because I've done this, I did that, I gave the youth conf, I did this, I served on a Sunday morning, I went to this thing in the community and made sure that took place. I'm at the school, I serve at the hospital. Like, your mind automatically begins to affirm that you're a generous person. But when it comes down to the nature and the root of who we are from the moment we're born, we're not generous at all. We're selfish at the root of it all. John MacArthur has a quote that says this. It says, God made all of his creation to give. He made the sun, the moon, the stars, the clouds, the earth, the plants to give. He also designed his supreme creation, man, to give. But fallen man is the most reluctant giver in all of God's creation. See, God created you as his masterpiece. It's one of my favorite things to tell you and to tell students. God desires you and cherishes you and values you more than anything else he's created. You're his masterpiece, which means he's most proud of you, that has the highest value on it. You ask an artist what their most prized possession is, they will tell you it's their masterpiece. And in this, that's who God has created us to be. And as a masterpiece, as a supreme creation, he created us to give. But as a fallen creation, as a fallen creature, it's not in our nature at all. You see, God created this beautiful thing that we get to experience in life, galaxies that we don't even get to see, the world that we get to walk on, the earth that he created, the people around us. I told our interns this week, I talked with them about it, and then our team rally this morning. I said, if you were to look outside, how many colors do you see? You can't even list them all because there's all kinds of different shades where they mix together and they make new ones, and you begin to navigate that. It's amazing to be able to see what God has gifted us in that. God, in his ultimate creation and being the ultimate author and the beautiful creator that he is, could have created everything just as it is in this moment, but he did it in black and white. And we wouldn't have known anything else. And we would have thought it was fantastic and it was great. But he went even deeper than that. And he created it all in beauty and splendor, and we get to enjoy colors and seasons and all kinds of different things like that because of his generosity with us. And then we even get into who he's created us to be, how he's created us. He created the world, he created the galaxies, the stars and the moon and the earth, all these things he created from a word and breath. But there's a concept and idea of how he created people. And it's imago Dei, which means from the substance of God, which means everything else, he breathed it out and it existed. But yet when it came to creating the person, the people that he wanted to walk in a relationship with, he took his actual substance and placed it and said, now you, who I have created, whatever you see, created us to reign and rule over the earth. And then decisions were made, deceit began to creep in, deception, poor decisions, and what we were created to reign and rule over now reigns and rules over us. It's a broken creation. What God never intended, what he intended was to be generous and for us to walk with him in community. So what does it mean to be generous? We live in a culture, in a time, in a world where generous begins with mine. I got to get mine. I've got to protect myself. I've got to get here. I got to get there. I got to take care of what I got to take care of. And then I'm going to be generous with what's left. We even defend our generosity with my generosity. Well, this is what I did to be generous. We begin to think through the things that we did in order to bolster ourselves, in order to have more influence. And we may not even do it in big circles, but a lot of times we make sure we do it in little circles just so just a few people know how much we did to make an impact. Just so a few people know so they can pat us on the back a little bit. I'm guilty, I'm telling you, words of affirmation right here. I want people to know how good I'm doing. I want people to tell me how good I'm doing. But that's not the heart of who God is. See, we have this thing, and you laughed at it when I mentioned it a second ago, when you think of the person that gives financially, and they do it just as a business investment. Culture in the world has totally taken the opportunity to be generous and defended it with what makes it better for me. Someone comes and asks you, hey, can you help me in this? A lot of times our question is, or our thought is, how is this going to hurt me? How am I going to feel this? What's it going to look like on the other side? How is it going to benefit them, but also how is it going to hurt me or benefit me? One of the two. So when it comes to being generous, what does it even mean to be generous? If you look at the ancient languages, you go to break down the Hebrew or the Greek. In the Greek, the word for generosity is hapolotes. In the Hebrew, it's hanan. And these two words are where we get generosity from. What they actually mean is it's an implied act, an implied idea of mercy and kindness. And that's where generosity comes from, because in this moment, all I want to show is mercy and kindness. Not thinking about how it's going to benefit me, but more so thinking how I'm going to improve the life of the one in front of me. Mercy and kindness. We see this concept of Hanan. We see it in Psalms 112:5. It said, "It is well with the man who deals generously and lends, who conducts his affairs with justice." So in this reference here, generosity is tied with justice. Justice meaning that God sees every person as a masterpiece. That every person deserves to be defended. Every person deserves to be provided for. Every person has a purpose. Every person has a place. Every person has a plan. Because God created them in that. They just may not know how to navigate it yet and need someone to come along with a generous spirit to say, hey, how can I get you to begin to walk in the promise of who God intended you to be? You know, I sense right now that you're feeling pretty broken. And that you're lonely, and that you just need a friend. So let me be generous in this moment to come alongside you and encourage you. You feel lost and you feel hurt. You've made a mistake and you think you are now defined by that mistake. But let me tell you that the only thing that can define you will never be a mistake, but will always be the Creator in Jesus. The only one that can define you. We tell our students after what Pastor Mike said at a youth conference this year, said people may make up names for you and call you names all the time, but the only one that has naming rights is God. He can change your name at any moment. He can change your path at any moment, because you know why? He is generous. And he will put everything in purpose and in place for your next step when you begin to respond and recognize who he is in your life. It's a matter in this premise, this concept of justice. And the idea of this being a just act and being generous doesn't stem from some kind of law or from some kind of like just stipulation or anything like that. No, it stems from the heart and character of who God is. God isn't generous and isn't generous with us in order for him to be uplifted or anything shown for him. He does it out of a heart and a care for every single one of us. Because ultimately, when it comes down to it, he has everything he needs and we have nothing. He has everything he could ever need and we have nothing. So he knows that without him, we are nothing. And so he offers himself to us every single day. But how often are we actually picking up his generosity? How many times has someone offered something to you in life? Whether it be just a simple $10 bill or your first reaction when someone paid it forward for you was, they didn't have to do that. No, I'm not going to take that in this moment. But yet God is continually saying, I am being generous with myself to you. I am saying you have something greater, but yet you keep holding on to all these things that make it feel like you're worthless. You have no value. The only value you have is bankruptcy and debt because you're carrying all this brokenness. And so that poses my next question. Why is the character of generosity so hard? Why is that heart such an issue? It's because we feel responsible to pay that tab that we have racked up over time. You say, well, my story is so extreme and so ridiculous that I don't know if anything could ever right it. I've been through divorce after divorce after divorce, and now I'm sitting in a relationship, and I'm thinking, I don't even deserve to be in this relationship because I don't know if I know how to handle people. I don't know if I'm worthy of anybody to come alongside me. I made poor investment and poor decision after poor decision, and I have an issue with spending money, and now I have nothing to be generous with. And so now I'm in debt, and I don't even know where to go or where to turn except for just to give up. I'm in a place of so much anxiety that it's hard for me to even get out of bed in the morning. I'm so depressed that life is just dark. I don't even know where to go, who to turn to, or what to do. Then your tab on your ticket keeps getting rang up and rang up and rang up and rang up until the bill is so long that you're looking at it saying, how am I ever going to pay for this? I don't have the means, I don't have the gifts, I don't have the talents, I don't have the abilities, I don't have the character to pay for this. It's where it gets twisted. Generosity is often so tagged with only money that it becomes seen as a debt. It's a debt to be generous. But in reality, when it comes to generosity, generosity takes place out of a heart that has freedom. And when you begin to look at how God has created you and the freedom that you can walk in and who you are and what he has for you, then a generous spirit can begin to take place. You see, a beautiful thing about Jesus is that he's patient. In Psalm 115, it says, you are slow to anger, and yet you wait on me. And I think this is something we take for granted so often, is because as soon as we make a mistake, it's like, oh, done now. Oh, something happened again. Oh, add it to my tab. But no, God's saying, David's saying to God in this moment, you are slow to anger, which means you are patient with me. You are walking with me through these moments. And as I cry out to you in my hurt, you're still there. When I celebrate with you in my victory, you remain. In the highs and the lows, you remain patient with me because I am looking so many different directions rather than being focused on the call that God has for me. And he's patient with us. And part of that is the beauty of the gospel. We break down the gospel so many times in the seasons of life that we live in. But the gospel is a beautiful picture that continues today. You say, how does the gospel continue today? The gospel started when God created the heavens and the earth. And he said that it was good. And then he created man to reign and rule over it. And then the fall took place and man became corrupt. And we began to experience the things that we don't understand, like deception and death. And God said, I never intended for that. And in those moments, then only certain people could come into the Holy of Holies. Only certain people could be in the room that you're sitting in today. And they had to go through certain processes and steps in order to be there. And there came a moment in time where God said, that's not my intention. That's not my heart. That's not how I want to spend time with my people. And so in that moment, he sent his son Jesus, of a virgin, to walk this earth that we walk today, perfect, faultless, blameless, tempted, tried, just as every single one of us do every single day. And he did it perfectly. And so in this moment, God's saying, you know what? All of this stuff, all this garbage, all these things that you're walking through was never my intention. And so now I'm going to be generous with my creation that you are enjoying, but I'm also going to be generous with my most prized possession, in my son. And now I'm going to place you over him. And there came a moment in time where a friend of his turned his back on him because of a greedy heart. And when he turned his back on him, then Jesus was arrested. And he was taken and he was tried unfairly. And in that moment, he bore everything, every thought that you have to this day was running through his head. Being generous in the moment. Saying, no, their life is worth more than what they think it is. And so in that moment, they beat him, they mocked him, they placed a crown of thorns upon his head. When they beat him so brutally that you could actually see through parts of his body. Was unrecognizable as a human being. And then after all that, they placed the cross upon his back, the thing that was going to kill him, to carry across the city to the moment of his death. And he never stopped the whole way thinking of being generous for every person in this room, the person that's on your heart, the person that you're dismissing. Because he's a generous God, and that's the heart and the character of Jesus. Your tab is racking up and racking up and racking up and racking up. And I can't pay for this. And God's saying, you don't have to pay for this, because I already have. I've picked up that check. I am generous because I am just. I see something more in you than you could ever see in yourself. And so in this moment, if you would just let me pick up the check rather than fighting me for it, let me pay for it, rather than it being a debate, let me begin to show you as a new creation who I desired you to be from the beginning of time, from the moment that I created you and I thought about you. Let me begin to be really generous with you in the way it was intended. To spend time with you, to walk with you, to guide you, to lead you. So you begin to sense the rhythms of who Jesus is rather than just the rhythms of life, because the rhythms of life are crazy and chaotic and confusing. Because we don't really even understand what life is until we begin to walk in the rhythm of Jesus. And we begin to be able to be generous with a heart and a character and an attitude that reflects him. See, culture has stolen the term influence. It's stolen it. It doesn't mean what it used to mean. Now, influence just means you're all about clout. Some of you are saying, did he say clout or did he say clouds? I'm not sure. Clout means that you're just chasing as much as you can get to show off as much as you can. That's what influence is turned into today, because we have the term influencer. And they have a lot of followers, and they got a lot of YouTube views, and they make a lot of money, and they do all these kind of things. But that's not influence. Influence is when people are drawn to you because of your character and your heart. Because you've made a difference. So if Jesus has made a difference in you because he's been generous with you, what are you being generous with to other people? So that they are drawn to you, so that they see a difference, so that they can be a difference. A lot of times I think we get scared about the term being a difference maker, changing the world. We tell students and we tell people in this room like this, we say, I challenge you to go and do this. Challenges are hard and life is enough of a challenge already. I want to encourage you to do something different. You know why I want to encourage you to do something different? Because I believe in you. And I think you can do it. And not only do I think you can do it, but the creator of heaven and earth believes in you to do it. So I encourage you to take whatever that step is, but yet you're saying, no, I've got this still. I've got this adulterous affair that I'm walking through right now that the person sitting next to me doesn't even know about. There's grace, there's mercy, There's forgiveness. You know, I've been doing this at the workplace and I've been kind of funneling some money here and there and they don't know about it just to make ends meet. Be a person of character. Step up. Because as soon as you uncover something, God will cover it. But as long as you keep it covered, it's going to come to light at some point. So walk through it with Jesus and let him handle your business than you trying to handle it all by yourself. I'm broken. I'm lost. I'm confused. I'm uncertain. Church, let me tell you this. We all are. We all are. And the only answer to any of that is the one and only hope of the world in Jesus. And yet you're saying, I've got a ticket to heaven. Who are you sharing it with? How are you being generous with that moment? Say, Jesus rescued me. I'm living in my purpose. I'm being fulfilled. Whatever that might look like, but yet I sit in my seat and I don't know what's next. Who are you telling about Jesus? Who are you bringing alongside you? How are you growing heaven? Who is jumping in this baptism tank because of your faithfulness, because of your generosity, because you are being the character and heart of God to those around you? It's hard to be generous because I'm carrying so much other stuff. Quit carrying it. Because Jesus said, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. If you know anything about yokes and agriculture, a yoke is not light. It's a heavy piece of equipment. And yet Jesus is saying, if you put it on me, you begin to sense my rhythms, you begin to walk in my purpose for your life, then what you carry will be easy and the burden will be light. Because I know your passions. I know who I created you to be. And when it comes down to it, I'm the most generous thing that's ever been in existence. Because I've given my all for every single one of you. And yet we sit there and we say, no. Let me make sure I pay it. It says in Romans 8:32, he who did not spare his own son, but gave him up for all of us, how will he not also with him graciously give us all things? Everything that we need. Ephesians 2:8-9. For by grace you have been saved through faith. And this is not in your own doing, but it is the gift of God, not a result of works, so that no one may boast. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. You know, when we walked into the restaurant last week, we had no intention for someone to pick up our tab. We didn't say, we're going to go out to eat, but we don't have any money, so I hope someone pays for it. We didn't go and say, you know what, I'm going to start getting this, and this, being negligent in where we are and saying, you know what, but no, I'm not going to be able to pay for that. Didn't walk in and say, you know, I'm going to get a soda instead of a water. I'm going to get an appetizer, and then I'm going to get one of the larger entrees rather than a launch entree. And then, hey, why don't we just go ahead and get dessert too? But yet so many times we're so reckless in our life, that's what we do. And even in our recklessness, Jesus is saying, hey, let me get that check. Let me take care of that because you can't pay for it. So in the moment, whether you're remembering it or it's taking place right now, and you didn't expect it, and Jesus is saying, hey, give me the check. Let me pay for that. What is your spirit in that? Are you defending the, no, I got to take care of it, because that's not what he's saying. He's a gentleman. He knocks, waiting for you to let him in. Saying, hey, I have everything that you need. You're broken. Let me make you whole. Life is a wreck, it's chaos. Let me show you peace. Divorce after divorce, no parents, no friends. Let me put people around you to show you what real friendship looks like, and that you can be one too. Everything you're carrying, just let me pick up the check. Because I did it on Calvary. And in that moment, when Jesus breathed his last breath, and the veil was torn from the top to the bottom, meaning that in that moment now we have access to the Holy Spirit. We have access to God in our daily life. He is guiding us every single day, walking with us step in step, no matter the decision, because he's saying, hey, I got the check. I've got you. Be a little bit smarter about how you handle your stuff, but hey, I got you. See, we don't give or be generous out of an abundance. We do it out of a reflection and a reflex of who God is. God was generous with you from the start and gives you the opportunity to be generous. Whether that's finances, whether it's time, whether it's talents, doesn't matter what it is. He just wants you to have the heart and the character of who he is, so other people are drawn to you, that you have real influence.